Hello everybody, Miss Ford here. Today I am going to be showing you guys how to make a pizza sauce. This recipe came, I got it off the internet, and it is supposed to be a copycat of Zachary's pizza sauce. If you've ever had Zachary's pizza, it's amazing. Their deep dish is awesome. And so we're going to try to make a version that tastes similar to their amazing sauce. So for the recipe, you're going to need a clove of garlic, some olive oil, 1 can of crushed tomatoes. I usually buy the ones that has oregano and basil in it. You can also use diced. A lot of the deep dish sauce that they use has bigger chunks of tomatoes. So if you want bigger chunks of tomatoes, diced tomatoes works good too. I just happen to have the crushed at home in my pantry. And then you're going to need 1½ teaspoons of fresh oregano. You can get this at the grocery store, or if you grow it in your backyard. I grow this in the backyard, and it's awesome because whenever I need something, I can just go out and snip a little bit out. And some fresh basil as well, along with some salt to taste and some pepper to taste. The basil is at 1½ teaspoons, just like the oregano. Okay, so I'm going to be using my chef's knife for this. I want to mince my herbs and the garlic. So first things first is garlic is coated in this kind of fibrous, not edible coating, and so we want to take that off. So the easiest way to take that off is to place your knife flat on the garlic and hit it with your hand. It should smash the garlic, and then the coating should come right off. Okay? Make sure you get that off of your cutting board so that doesn't get in. Then I'm going to mince my garlic. And which mincing is, you want it in really, really small pieces. I'm going to be using the claw method because I don't want to get my fingers underneath the blade. Pay particular attention to your thumb because you tend to forget about your thumb, and that's the one that usually gets cut. I'm using the rocking method with my chef's knife. The tip never leaves the cutting board. And now I'm going to use the cross chop, making sure that my fingers stay out of the way completely. So I'm mincing, so I want them in nice small pieces. Okay, I'm going to scrape that over to the side to be used a little bit later. Now, for my herbs, I just want the leaves. I don't want to use the stems, so I'm going to pick the leaves off until I think I'll have about 1½ teaspoons. This is the oregano. It smells so good. Then I'm going to do the same thing with my basil. Okay, so since the leaves of the oregano are already quite small, I'm just going to cross chop these. Just kind of a rough chop. Okay, and I'm going to push those over to the side. For my basil leaves, to make it a little easier for me to cut, I'm going to first kind of roll them up. And I'm very carefully keeping my fingers out of the way. And then I can do a rough chop. And my ingredients are now ready. Okay, I have a saucepan over medium heat, and I'm going to add my 2 tablespoons of olive oil to my saucepan. I'm going to let that heat up for just a second. Or, I'm sorry, a couple minutes. I'm going to let that heat up for just a couple minutes. Okay, so here's a little trick to know when your oil in your pan is hot, is you get a little bit of water on your hands and you flick it. And you see that sizzle? I know that that oil is ready to go. So I'm going to add my garlic. You want to be careful because garlic will burn really quickly if you're not paying attention. So I'm going to use my wooden spoon for this. And I'm just going to stir the garlic around for about a minute until it becomes really wonderfully fragrant. which means it just starts to smell really good. You don't want to burn your garlic, so keep an eye on it. If it starts to burn, turn down the heat, okay? Keep stirring it constantly because there's nothing worse than the taste of burnt garlic, especially in your pizza sauce. Okay, it has been about a minute, and now I'm going to add the rest of the ingredients. I'm going to add my herbs, and I'm going to add my 28-ounce can of tomato sauce. Be careful, it will splatter. Now, you want to add a 1/4 teaspoon of pepper and some salt to taste. So, it depends on how much you like salt. Some families like more salt than others. There's my 1/4 teaspoon of pepper, but I'm going to start out with just a little bit of salt, and I'm going to taste as I go. So just a pinch. Give it a stir. You always, always, always want to taste what you're making while you're making it, as long as it doesn't have undercooked meat in it. And you don't want to double dip. So I'm not going to eat off of the spoon and then keep stirring, right? I'm going to get a separate spoon, and I'm going to give it a little bit of taste. We're going to be simmering this for 30 minutes. Now, what's the difference between simmer and boil? Boil, you have these big rolling bubbles coming up. A simmer is just slightly small little bubbles on the bottom, and what's happening is the liquid will be evaporating out and my sauce will be getting thicker and thicker. So I'm going to let that simmer for about a half an hour. If I find that the sauce is getting too thick and I don't want it to get that thick, I can always add a little bit of water and put the lid on, and that will prevent the water from evaporating, and it'll keep the consistency the same. So I'm going to give this a little taste and see if I like it or see if I need to add more salt. I think I'm going to add a little bit more salt to mine. And I'm going to keep tasting as it cooks because the flavors will meld and change as it goes. So you may, at the end, you may think that it's salty enough right now, but at the end you may taste it again and need a little bit more salt. So continually taste. We'll see you in about a half an hour. Okay, so you may find that as it reduces, it starts to splatter more, and you may need to reduce your heat even more at this point. I am on in between low and medium low now, and it is splattering a lot because I am almost done. If you do like your pizza sauce on the sweeter side, feel free to add a little bit of sugar. I would start with a teaspoon and taste, and then add more as you taste till you're liking. With the salt, remember, you can always add more, but you can't take it away. It's really hard to make something taste less salty. So add it sparingly until you get it the way you like it. I'm going to turn this off the heat because it has thickened really nicely. And I am going to go ahead and start making my pizza dough.